Andy,
Yeah.
before you introduce your brother and sister, Billy and Janie, and get into the episode, I want to let you know that today I actually killed 4 roosters and I ground up the meat, and they're actually in my fridge right now, marinating for bratwurst. So if you make it into Georgia by tomorrow, Andy, I can put my cock in your mouth if you want to try. That was just
You're a family man. That's how dinner is off.
But you got friends.
OMG. Okay.
I've got nothing, and
hilarious.
that's the worst
That
part
was
for me. I
hilarious.
just got nothing right now. That's
You have nothing. You
I don't
got
know,
him. Fong, you got him, man.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's been a while since we did an episode. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Today is an awesome new episode. I've got my siblings with us. I have Janie and Billy. I am the youngest of the three. These two have done a lot to raise and make me the person who I am today. So I owe a lot to them. So it's a huge pleasure of mine to bring them to the episode. I'm going to let my sister start first. Janie, you want to introduce yourself? And then once you're done, Billy, if you want to step in and say who you are, and, then we'll go off with the topics from there.
Sure. I am Janie, and I'm Ann. Do you go by Andrew or Andy?
Either Andy, Andrew,
Okay,
whatever you want to say.
Good. Well, I'm Andy's sister, and down here in Georgia, I do real estate, Let's see, I run a lot of businesses in real estate. How about that? Because I'm not just a salesperson. I manage a few businesses. Been watching this podcast for a really long time, actually, on my commutes. Very proud of my brother and his friends for doing this. Actually, it seems a lot of fun. Looks like you guys had a lot of good times, and very happy to be here today.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Oh, it's my turn. Okay.
Yeah.
Billy. I'm the cocksucker's brother. And
Now that's got to go at the beginning of the episode. That's the only way that's going to make sense now. That's the only way that's got to go at the top. Oh, great.
Oh my God.
we're gonna blur this moment so you see the beginning. We'll give you a few minutes to watch. Good.
We don't
We're
edit
back.
these. We don't edit these.
Oh, awesome. Even better. I'm also in real estate and farming. I do a lot of farming. Got cattle and goats and all that good stuff. And I have a large background, but we're gonna just, I guess, carry on with the podcast. Oh, I can't tell you, I haven't watched a single podcast, so I hope it's good. Janie sometimes tells me about, hey, you should see this. I'm like, yeah, I'd rather drop anchor myself.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
Like, how many
I don't listen to our
followings?
podcast either, so
Yeah, so here we are. So Andy, let's shoot us off the first question. See what we got.
Thanks. All right. Thanks for joining us. So you guys both have a huge real estate background. I think between the two of you guys, we're looking at like 3 to 4 decades. So I wanted to do a deep dive in real estate. We're in the middle, not in the middle, we're probably towards the end of the pandemic. So a lot of things have changed. Buyers and sellers are very different than they were in the beginning of 2019. And a lot more people are afraid to even enter the real estate market. So first question up, should buyers be scared to even enter in the market right now? Like, should they just be like, let's hold over, let's wait for, the interest rates to hike up and come back down again, maybe in 2 to 3 years? Or if they've got the capital, should they be looking now? Whoever wants to start.
Two-edged sword type thing. So house prices are soaring. We're in an inflation right now. Everything's inflated. Houses are crazy high. But then again, on the other side, interest rates are really, really low. So if you are looking for getting a long-term loan right now is the time to get it. And even in some cases, if the houses are inflated in price, it kind of offsets if you get a mortgage with a low interest rate. So it's case by case as far as that goes. what I worry about, and what's interesting is, and I know we're going to get into it, is the people who are investing cash into these inflated prices. But when it comes to home purchasing, when you talk about a buyer, generally we're speaking of someone first-time home buying. It is something, if you're going to buy like your forever home, it might be a nice time to get maybe one of those 30 or 40-year loans with the 2 to 3% interest rate. Go ahead and lock in on one of those. But if you're looking at only living in the place for a few years and then having to sell it after 3 or 4 years, you would probably look at losing money.
Well,
And
5 years
that's
is
my
kind of like
opinion.
the sweet spot.
Yes. Yeah, I'd say I always like to tell people, if you're good, if you're considering leaving or moving out of the house within 4 to 5 years, then purchasing may not be your cup of tea unless you're wanting to start your real estate portfolio where you will be renting that property out. And in that case, we shouldn't be looking at features that you absolutely love, but more of features that generally most people love, so that you can rent it out and it will be more appealing to everyone and not just you. So it's a different kind of market.
So I'm going to go on a different side here with a question for Billy. Like, Billy, I know you worked, I think you still work a lot into selling bank repossessed homes. And I know in the past year and a half, the government has, stopped foreclosures on homes that, are I guess, loans that are underwater. And people might be waiting for those kinds of houses to enter the market and just like start flooding and, maybe catch a house that's super low. Should people be waiting on that? Should people be biding their time? Or are we expecting a flood of these houses to hit the market anytime soon? What have you seen so far, and what do you think we might see in the future?
Unfortunately, my answer is going to be shorter than your question. That is the biggest determination I see. What's going on now is people always ask me is where is the market headed? And it is so unpredictable right now. It's just, you just can't do it. Before, we used to be able to say it's getting close to a holiday. So a holiday, everybody kind of dives down, don't buy as much. And then when it's off holiday, you have your fluctuations of buying homes and selling homes, whatever. And then you can tell when it's going to a seller's market, to a buyer's market. And our questions now are when is it gonna, when is the housing market gonna go back down, and when is foreclosures gonna go back on the market? And with today's times, it seems very unpredictable. So it's hard to say. I hate to say it, but as a professional, you're sitting there saying, I don't know. I don't know if when something happens, it happens. But look at our gas prices. It's just they're so high, and everybody's trying to. We need to lower. We need to lower. We need to do this. We need to do that. But nobody knows what they're going to do. And it's just everything is just. It's very hard to say a straight answer to anybody, and it's hard to tell a prospective buyer, seller, even a renter, when the next market is going to drop to proceed in their next step.
Do you think the market would benefit if they were to just like flood the market with the bank repossessed homes?
I think if that does happen, we could see a bad crash happen. You know what I mean? And people that have purchased homes for as much as they have at top dollar, we're going to see more of a flood, because their houses ain't going to be worth squat, because now they're buying homes at a lower price because they're foreclosures, and it will bring that market back down quickly. And that might start a bad feud.
So it's probably not something the Fed's planning to do, not to release a bunch.
No, I would. My best guess would be they would slowly trickle them in, because they are going to go cheaper now. Like Jenny was talking about, you have these investors, and she's not kidding around, man. These people got cash money, and they are buying everything.
Yeah, who are you guys talking about? Like, who are these people?
Well, the Muslims out of state.
Before we go into that, I'm sorry, I wanted to say something really interesting about the foreclosure market. I had a very long conversation with somebody who'd been in real estate for a really long time about foreclosures. And what's interesting about it is, if you're going to be foreclosing right now, then you must not be very smart, because if you're behind on your mortgage, sell your house. It is inflated right now. You will make money. There is no more underwater right now. You're not underwater. So if you're over here, you bought your house 2-3 years ago, you bought your house 6 months ago, you can break even on your house right now. Okay. You can break even or even make money right now. So is there even any foreclosures out there? Question mark, question mark. That's the thing that I wonder. Is there even going to be a flood out there? Because anybody who's, I mean, unless you are just living under a rock, which, you know, we are in
Patrick
a
does.
pandemic type, and pandemic, and maybe some people are living under a rock. There is no way that you should be foreclosing on your house. Sell it now. Even however far behind you are, there's short sales, foreclosures, those kinds of things. I'm just really doubtful. I'm actually hopeful that there's not a lot of foreclosures out there, because if there are, Lord help the American people for how not smart we are generally.
Well, so
I mean,
does a short
yeah.
sale, and I think that's the technical term for when you're selling a house and you're underwater, does a short sale end up on your credit report or anything? Does it hurt you negatively in any way?
Not as bad, because it's basically like you settled. It's a settlement. So just like if you did like a student loan or something like that, it shows off like a settlement. And it does, but it doesn't affect it as badly as a foreclosure.
So you guys also rent houses. If you guys see short sale on somebody's credit report, is that a ding on their ability to rent a house from, you know?
It wouldn't say short sale, it would say settled, account settled. And no, it's not a ding, because that means that you negotiated with the person who made the loan with you and came to terms.
So when you say
you're
settlement,
going
you
to
don't mean
that.
like legal settlement. You mean just like settle, like the account's closed, like the
Correct.
account's been
Yeah,
agreed
I'm
to.
okay with you paying a little bit less than you owe, and you know you're okay with paying off this, so we'll come to terms with that.
Okay, so it's like closing a bank account.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. But the bank is accepting less than what's owed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So
Yeah, sorry,
let's go
I had
into
to
the
add that in.
investors. I'm curious, Billy,
Yeah,
you want to start
yeah,
us back up?
yeah.
Like what
Sorry.
is
Hang on,
cash investor?
hang on. Hold that thought for the investors. And so let me turn this a little bit away from Clark Howard show real quick, and let's get into something a little bit more interesting, because I want to hear this from Janie and Billy. One of the things that you said, Janie, were first-time home buyers. Do you think that's a dying breed? And do you think that that's something that we're going to see a lot less of over the next couple of decades? And how would that affect your industry?
No, I don't think it's a dying breed. Not, at least not in our area. We have more buyers than our houses for sale. Billy and I both are calling people we know who could want to move in with their older parents or something to help them out or something like that. And we know that they want to do this. And it's like, look, I'm looking for a house to sell because this buyer's been looking. We've got buyers living in hotels right now. And most of them are first-time home buyers. You know, and
Is that because the prices are too high, or?
It's very interesting. For me, I'm like, why are you guys buying these houses that are $120 a square foot right now? That is crazy. But to them, it's what they know because it's their first time. So but they're looking at, hey, but $120 square foot, my monthly payments are only going to be like $900 a month. It doesn't matter if the house is $180,000 and only 1,200 square feet. Look at my payments. So they're looking at the monthly payments that they're having to make, and that's what looks good to them. So yeah.
So does that mean that your clientele are the same E1s and E2s that are buying Mustangs at 29% APRs, and that's why they're looking at the monthly payments on a house rather than the actual cost of the house?
You would think, no, actually it's pretty wide. We get all sorts of ranks that are purchasing. You would think that is the case, but we have a lot of first-time home buyers that are actually E5s and up, and also officers that are just purchasing. And I do think it has something to do with they're gaining more knowledge and education about real estate investing and how that can be worked up into a portfolio and used for the future profit with renting things out, especially in a transient area, a high transient area like where we are near a military base.
Oh, I wanted to back up to the first time homebuyer comment. I think I disagree with you a little bit. I think we're going to see less as years pass, because as each generation continues, we're getting less and less people. I'm looking at the census from 2019, and it's from the ages between 40 to 64 or 40 to 54 outnumber the ages between 20 to 39. And 20 to 39 outnumber the ages between a toddler and 14. Like, just keeping that in mind, like, we have less and less people being born, thereby we're going to have less first-time home buyers. And I'm not saying, in orders of a few 100,000 people. I'm talking about orders of 2, 4, 6 million people in difference just in the United States. So just by the law of numbers, we're going to have less first-time home buyers. They're not going to be a dying breed. Like, it's not going to be dead ever, but I think we're going to have less of them as the population continues to reduce, and the capital continues to grow at, this might be going to a place we don't want to go, but as the capital continues to grow amongst a smaller population of Americans, I think the ability for people to have that capital to buy or purchase a home might be less. And that might be something that changes based on the area you live in. Like where I'm at, if you're not coming to the table with $100,000 cash, you're not buying a house. And with that in mind, I just wanted to make sure I put in that opposing view. If you have a retort to that, feel free to jump in.
Go ahead, Billy.
I think those statistics are boiled down to spoiled ass kids, because I could tell you I have people that come in and the mother and father are in between those ages, and they'll say, yes, I would like to buy a house for my child who is 30 years old all the time. So
Really?
your first time home buyers are actually getting bought homes and not buying them themselves because they don't know what they're doing and mommy and daddy are not teaching them. So they just get out of college or high school, or they just want them out of their damn house. So they're going to go buy them a house themselves, move out to wherever you want. I'm going to buy you a house. And I think that's where the statistics come from. If you look around too, going back to what 10 was talking about, and the cars, their APRs are 1.5%. We're used to that high percentage. You don't want to buy a car brand new or whatever. Now it's like, you get a car now, you can go to BB&T website, buy a new car through them. It's 1.5% APR. So everything now is just low. However, most cars are hard to find because now you have to wait and get them built. And a lot of times with our market, it's hard to find a home. So you have to get it built. But then you're stuck trying to find land to build it on. So everything right now is so chaotic. It's hard. Your statistics that we had before, though, it's a different statistic. The title should be changed because it's not the same as it used to be.
I could really buy into what you're saying, Andy, with regards to those numbers being used by these investors that are coming into the market. I think that they're looking at the same numbers you're looking at, and that's part of the reason why they're buying up so much properties, because they are banking on the fact that there'll be less first-time home buyers and more renters out there, as you were saying. And I think that those are numbers to look at. What's interesting is, I'm working with an investor, and I've been doing this for a very long time. And, he was shooting out some numbers to me and telling me how we need to be increasing rents at a steady pace over the years, particularly these statistics of 4 to 5% to match inflation every year is what we should be increasing. And he asked if we did that regularly. And my answer to him was no, we based it on the market. We're a highly deployable military area. And so when we don't have as many buyers, we don't have as many renters, then the market price of rentals will go down. It has nothing to do with inflation. As much as I would like to say that the rental market increases 4 to 5% every year, that is not true. It will fluctuate with whatever the market is going on. So that's why those numbers you're looking at, they're general numbers, but when you hone in on the actual area, the specific area, it could be different.
So here's a curious question. Now, I think it would be fair to qualify your area, as you had said, highly transient area. And it's not a professional transient, it's military town. So are the larger cities around you, they're military towns, right? The metropolitan area of Atlanta and other metro areas, we've been seeing a significant increase in rent almost every single year. I see people in my next door group and my neighborhood groups who are looking for a 1 or 2 bedrooms, and they're willing to pay 1700 $1,800 a month. So here's the other question is that my first question was about a potential dying breed of first time home buyers. So let's look at increasing rent prices without a wage to match that. Do we also potentially put ourselves into a bucket where we start to see living conditions that we often see in places like metropolitan cities in Asia, where they're having these very small living conditions where they're sharing restrooms and bathrooms and laundry? Is that something that you see in our future, not just for your particular market, but also for our metropolitan area, and where we may see our kids and their kids in the future potentially living in, because it's so hard to not just afford to buy a home, but also to rent one?
I'm going to jump in. So I think what you're saying is super interesting. I think you're attacking a bunch of topics here, and like cost of living increases. You're talking about whether rent should be tied to an actual income, and maybe hinting on the idea of like a universal basic income that we might not be getting into, but sticking to like the real estate side of things. I want to first start out with one thing. This isn't the first time we've seen this in the United States. Like we saw this before under the Hoover administration, and that's how we got the Hoover Dam and the shanties over there. It's how we got corporate coal mining towns. Like this isn't a first time we've seen this kind of atmosphere. It's just the first time for any living generation really to see this develop. And I think it's important to note, like, you know, we're kind of seeing the same things, like in a different way. We see the Amazon towns, where we're starting to see a lot more towns being owned, like Detroit. We see what's happening there. Like these things happening in the background are reminiscent of things that happened in the past. So when we're addressing your question, I think we should like have that grain of salt in there and say we have some of the past to help guide us. Are we heading that direction? It sure as hell feels like it. I don't know. I hope not. I hope that we can fix it. The difference between now and then is that the Fed is, in my opinion, in a very dumb way, holding back interest rates. They're not helping the situation by holding back this interest rate and keeping it at 0%. They By doing that, they're trying to fix like a rush of inflation, but I'm not sure how long they're going to hold this off for. Recently, the Ukraine-Russian conflict began, and America has already had their hands, elbow deep in the whole mess, and we've already sent over arms over there, and that money's coming from somewhere. So the government's already utilizing funds in certain areas. Why does all that matter? It matters because those funds going into infrastructure increases or decreases our cost of living. So when we see infrastructure not being developed in certain areas, you'll see the cost of living of some areas actually decrease. And that's because people are less wanting to live there, less resources are available in that area, less opportunities are available in that area. So cost of living to live there, you can buy a house for 20, 30 grand, you can buy your groceries for like $100 a month, that kind of thing, but you won't have access to a lot of, more metropolitan things like, the black and white. If you're in the DC area, you've got everything within a 2-mile radius of you, but you're paying for that cost of living. You need a 6-figure income just to make it by. And then to bring it back home, the rent that you're paying in those areas, they're never going to match the minimum wage in that area. If you're making the bottom 10 to 20% income in that area, you're never going to be able to afford to live in that same area. And I think we talked about this before, and this is how come the live, work, play areas, those concepts, those real estate concepts have never really worked. You can't live, work, play in the same area. You'll never be able to afford to work in the same place that you live in a small community like that. And that concept's always going to fail.
So Go ahead, Janie.
I'm sorry. So I find it difficult to where we live is a big military town. We have a large military base that basically supports our economy, really. And the soldiers are paid a BAH, which is a basic housing allowance. That BAH goes up approximately 2.5% a year. So, and it's been consistently doing that since 2018. So right now, your, E1 with no dependents is already getting $1,200 for housing allowance, and that's no dependents. With dependents, it's a little bit higher. So when you look at those kinds of numbers, that's supposed to also cover their electric, their utilities, power, the water, and all of that. So when you say that income isn't supporting it, in our area, income is supporting it because we're predominantly military. So it's really hard for me to answer the question outside of our area, where I can see if minimum wage isn't going up or if wages.
You guys don't
general
get
going
people
up,
at the
yeah.
lower ranks, right? They have to be E3 before they can even leave post, right?
Oh, very good question. No, actually right now, because of the lack of housing on post, a lot of them are getting
So E1s
permission
are
to
getting
live off of-
BAH?
Yeah, that's how
Wow.
come we have a lot of single soldiers that are roommates now. You had talked about people actually starting to rent houses together. That's happening a lot now. Yes.
I think that between your experience, Janie, and yours, Billy, what I was hoping for was an inference on how you think that your experience in the real estate market and how that would apply through your inference in other markets as well, right? So, for example, and Andy, I'm going to take a little side street on this with the potential future of us having housing like Singapore or Hong Kong, or where they're much smaller units. Do you think that we're actually kind of doing that and allowing our younger generation right now to normalize this idea of tiny homes and van life movement and a much different living lifestyle than they were able to do before, when we were younger or our parents were younger, that we were able to go out and buy $150,000 home and it was just fine. It was easier to do. Whereas today they're opting for a much smaller living condition, and they're normalizing the fact that that's okay for them and potentially their future families. And I understand, Billy and Janie, y'all live in a town where it is predominantly military, but I do want to hear your thoughts on how you think other areas of the United States is affected by these changes in cultural norms based on your experience in real estate. Billy,
I
we
have
can't hear
some
you.
friends. Were
Sorry.
you trying to speak, Billy? Sorry.
Yeah, I was on mute. Sorry.
Oh, I was wondering. I was trying to not talk too much. I was waiting for you to say something.
So y'all didn't hear any of my jokes. Christ. Oh man, I muted my son to get me a beer, and I forgot.
How old
But
is your
carry
son?
on.
Go ahead, Ben. Go ahead.
Man, I forgot what we were talking about.
Ken, what was your question?
Yeah, I don't like Pikachu.
No, so I mean, let's look at the future of housing for our kids. We all have kids here, right? And we know that they're probably going to have kids too. And is it going to be normal at that point of time in their lifetime? Maybe not ours, but maybe their peers, where they're living in much smaller, much more compact living conditions than what we're used to.
Right.
And we're also seeing this normalization of this van life and this tiny home life. And maybe it's not as big as, I'm leading it to be, but it's starting to seem like we're getting into the motion of people are not even trying to live in the standard ranch 3-bedroom home that our parents were trying for before. And now they're just going for this little one loft thing that they can tow around.
Right. Yeah. Those questions like that, or those unpredictable questions, we just don't. I could tell you, because.
Well, damn it, Billy, it's predictable.
I know. the way technology is now, things that we always thought was indifferent is normal per se. So living when we were growing up is you need a piece of property, get the white picket fence, get married, have kids. That's life. That's life. That's growing up. That's being an adult. The perspective of being an adult has changed. And I can't tell you which route it's going, but like now, like when being raised the way I was raised, it was, toughen up, be a man, do the job, and go home. It's not like that no more. And it's our technology. Our technology is so different and vast than it was when we were growing up. I'm at the point where I ask my son, how do you do that on YouTube? Yeah, Discord. I know how to turn it on. I know how to click a button so I can talk to people. But when it comes to the settings and things you can do with it, I'm oblivious. I'm asking a 10-year-old how this is done.
You saw that with the mute button.
Oh,
That's true. That's funny.
yeah. So I mean, to me, it's a hard question to ask. I cannot tell you without a crystal ball. Yes, we are changing to a different norm. I just don't know what that norm is going to be. Whether I like it or not, it doesn't matter. It's just an opinion. Because my norm is different than someone else's. I mean, that's their business.
If you had a guess, do you think we're heading to a world where renters are going to have to pay more for less?
So I have to say something here because this is so interesting, and this may be another podcast, okay? But have you guys heard of the metaverse?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So when you talk about our children's children, I think about the metaverse and what's going on right now, what they're doing. And I'm, reading up a lot about it, listening about it on my commute to work and everything. And I find it very interesting how people are purchasing virtual pieces of land, building on that land. They're purchasing Nike clothes and virtual for their avatars.
Well, this
they're
is not
actually
new.
meeting up together.
No.
Yes, but it's happening more
Eve.
predominantly. Right. They're talking but you're talking about this happening more predominantly, like the Facebook board of directors, they actually meet together with their avatars, and that's their board director meeting. And it's like, why don't y'all just do it on Zoom like normal people, but you got to be the ultra rich and come and meet with your avatars, and they got their hairstyles and everything. So I think about that, and I watched it one time with Mark Zuckerberg up there doing it, and they actually have their hand motions going because they're wearing their VR gear and stuff. And it's very interesting because in real estate, then you wonder, so are we not going to be buying real estate anymore or anything like that because of the small place? Like you said, we don't need as much anymore because now it's technology. It doesn't matter what I look like in real life. Who cares about personal hygiene? Who cares about what I own for real? But in the metaverse where everybody sees me, I got this nice ride, I got this Cadillac and I got my Nike shoes. And, in real life, I don't have those things. People are buying skins, in-game gear and stuff like that, just to look
thousands
great.
of dollars. Yeah.
Right. So when you talk about our children's children, it really is going to depend on how this metaverse thing works. I'm very intrigued.
So I'm going to, I don't have a rebuttal, but I'm going to, I have an anecdote for that. Okay.
Yeah.
And also to say that the metaverse is not the first of its kind. People have spent a significant amount of money on real estate, as well as commerce in Second Life. And Second Life actually had a currency that was originally recognized as the linden. I actually own real estate in Second Life, and you did too. And I actually made income.
I'm pretty sure
in
I still
Second
do.
Life with my real estate. And I know you were in a serious tone, and I'll say this in a serious manner too, even though it sounds like a joke. My real estate was actually a hooker house. So, me and the guys, we pretended to be women, and the guys would come in and pay us to sit down and talk with us. And they always wondered why we only maintain a text chat. We never got into voice chat, but we always made money from it. And that's how we did things.
He had to grind his cock for food.
We had partners who would build skins for our very beautiful women that we were.
Those
And,
skins cost a lot of money now, by the way.
they do,
Awesome.
and
Yeah.
and at that time there were a lot of companies who were fortune companies that were invested into that life too, right? I remember Dell being a very
Yep.
prominent
Right.
one at the time.
Same thing with
Even the
EVE
military
Online.
was.
Like I remember Matt and I used to have conversations in high school about EVE Online, and there were corporations like investing tons of money on advertisements. They'd own their own corporations inside of EVE Online. There would be huge
yeah.
meetings, there'd be huge wars. It's still to this day, to my knowledge, hasn't been fully explored. Like the game hasn't even been fully explored yet. It's crazy. These concepts aren't new. The idea of having virtual meetups, the idea of having these avatars greet you, that entire thing isn't new. Metaverse is capitalizing on the fact that they're Facebook to try to develop something new. And they're not even the first people to do that. PlayStation did it before them, 2 years before they did it. And
Right.
PlayStation's kind of failed.
But do you think now that Facebook is doing it, as like making this a big thing, do you think that it has a chance of, getting into the broader population?
If PlayStation can't pull it off, I don't think Facebook can pull it off.
Well, so I think pulling it off is subjective, right? Because Second Life was a very niche community, but it was still very successful. I think Metaverse can still be very successful. I'm going to Andy. I know you're hosting the show, but I really want to ask this question to Janie and Billy, because they're running a real estate company in a military town, and this. Let's not try to cross the line of politics here, but one of the things I've noticed with this Ukrainian and Russian conflict is that the world is not willing to deal with this bullshit of superpowers in modern countries fighting with each other, right? What happens in your market space if our military complex begin to shrink? Do you think that's something that, well, will it ever happen in America? Probably not. But if it does, how does that affect you?
Let me get this crystal ball. Hang on.
It's happened before though, right,
Ball.
guys? Like during
Yes,
Desert Storm.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
early 1990s. Yeah, we lost Dunkin' Donuts was with us in the early 1990s, and we lost them. We lost a lot of mom and pop. I remember La Hacienda, my favorite Mexican family-owned restaurants. We lost. We basically came down to it was a ghost town. It was awful, but I have to say though that they promised that would never happen again, because that's when they started after that war, and how it hurt small communities, because it wasn't just our communities that happened when they deployed an entire brigade at one time. Then obviously it affects the economy of the smaller towns or the towns that they're in. So they promised to, and they changed things, and they did it. Now you do it by rotation. So they take units from each brigade in certain areas, and they rotate them. So that shouldn't happen again. But as far as shrinking, like you're saying, because of what may happen in the future, and all of this military things going on in the world, and this is a fight that our area has almost every fiscal year, is to keep the base here and not have them move. It is a fight every year, because, and we even have a whole organization that does nothing but fight to keep them here up in DC. So it would be a huge impact on us if they were to leave. That is the majority of jobs, because it's not just military jobs, but it's your civilian jobs that are there. And then it's, we have so many schools and everything because all the military is stationed here and things like that. So it would be a hard hit, yes, if it was to shrink. Yes.
That is interesting that you have a lobby group up in DC looking out for your city's interests. And so just so that our listeners know, it's not just any military base, it's the Rocket Martin, right? So if you don't know what the Rocket Martin is, look it up. The other thing is that Billy doesn't need a crystal ball. He just needs a filing cabinet if we're talking about the 1990s. And that's back to you, man.
But okay. So sorry, I think you said back to me. So with that being said, I want to kind of come back to like the whole Second Life thing. Or do you guys have any finishing comments about real estate? I want to make sure you guys have a second to talk about if you guys want to. If there's something you wanted a comment you want to finish, or something you want to throw out there, like now's a good time. We're about to transition away from it. You want to start with Janie, then we'll go to Billy.
I think there was a comment earlier about foreign investors coming into our area. A lot of people coming in. We were going to talk about these cash buyers, and it is happening a lot, and it is driving up the prices here, the real estate prices here. That is what's causing the majority of the prices go up, because they're buying it in cash without appraisals. And you'll have anywhere between 6 to 12 offers every time you get a listing. And some of those offers, well, most of them will have escalation clauses, which basically says that I will offer this price, but if you get an offer higher than mine, I will pay in increments of $500 or $1,000 or whatever up until this max price. And if someone matches my max price, I'm willing to go 1,000 over that. So
for the benefit
when that
of viewers,
happens,
let's go through some of
yes.
that tech that you just went through.
Sorry.
In cash, without what you say,
Appraisal.
inspection or
Appraisals. They do
appraisal,
inspections,
without
yeah.
appraisal, without inspection, and
Oh, they do inspections.
they do inspections. So without appraisal, and then escalation clauses. In cash, how dangerous is it to buy property in cash?
Well,
Which for the benefit again, sorry, in cash means
Yeah.
100% financed by cash, right? Like they're not going for a mortgage. That's what you mean.
No, here's what's interesting with this. They're buying in cash, and then they're, after closing, pulling the money out of it to buy another piece of property in cash.
So when you say that, you mean they're mortgaging it after the fact.
Yes, they're getting these, and they may be short-term loans. I don't follow the money with all of that, but very, very interesting is that they're putting cash into the house. Okay, I'm buying it cash. It's cash. Cashier's check. Here you go. I just bought it. And then they're pulling the equity out to buy the next house in cash.
Not trying to insinuate anything, but that would probably be a good way to launder money, right? So anyway,
that is I'm not a detective.
without appraisals, how bad is it to buy a property without appraisals?
Very, because then you really don't know that you're getting it for market value. But these people seem not to care. They don't care, and they are mostly foreigners that are doing that. People, and I say foreigners, but I mean they all have Social Security numbers, so they're Americans. Who they're buying for, whose money they're using, I don't know, because all of a sudden the pandemic hits and everybody in the world's got cash and they can buy all this stuff. I don't know. It's the strangest thing ever. It is. It's still baffling to me. Like, where was all this cash when, house prices weren't this high, when they were lower? Why weren't you buying these houses a year ago when I had 50 houses on the market? Well, all of a sudden pandemic hits and now these people have cash. And they got to unload it. And not only did they have to unload it, but the feeling that I get is they got to unload it fast, and it needs to be in real estate. And it's not like they can buy it and then they put more cash into it to fix it up and then resell it. Oh no, they need to buy it with the cash. If they want any repairs made to it, they're going to go ahead and add that in there, and then have that paid out of closing. So they're paying all, it's like they got to do it that way in order for some kind of financing to happen or something like that. But it's got to be quick. It's got to be, it's just crazy.
I'd like to throw a hypothetical at you. Is it possible, because you were saying earlier that if you had a property in 6 months, it would be worth more than what you paid for it. Would it be possible to buy a property in cash? Let's say it's $100,000. You hold it for 6 months. 6 months pass. You decide, hey, I'm going to mortgage it, and you mortgage it for $120,000. In 6 months, did you just make $20,000 off the bank?
Sure could.
And then now you can use that 120 to purchase another property, and you keep gaining money off of the bank because you become your own bank.
Absolutely. That's exactly what is probably happening, because they're driving up the prices by not getting appraisals and buying it at such high over market value that they're making the entire market goes up, which, yes, that's exactly.
So not insinuating anything like that, but if you had a ton of actors like that in the United States and they're all making money off the banks, wouldn't that eventually destroy the economy that they're bartering from? So if they're putting money into it to flip it for blank money 6 months out because they're taking advantage of the 0% interest rate, wouldn't they be just holding the entire economy in their hands when they decide to pull out all at once and decide to default on a crap ton of loans?
Are you calling this Cold War?
Sorry, I wasn't insinuating anything. I apologize. We can continue.
Because it sure does sound like that.
Before you go back to Second Life, Andy, the money appearing out of nowhere during the pandemic sure does sounds like a really nice Samsung washer machine for PPP loans that can be made legitimate from companies that didn't exist before. You know, a lot of them use, so a lot of them, a very small amount of them actually use their false PPP loans to buy stupid shit like Lamborghinis and Ferraris, right?
Yeah.
But if you're investing in homes and you're hiring people and you're actually running a business out of it, it's kind of legitimate.
Yeah.
Why
Using
didn't
the
I do
system.
that? Anyways,
Using the system.
yeah.
Oh,
Go back
this
to it.
isn't. This shouldn't be a hard idea for anybody. Like all this stuff that happened, like it's super easy to take advantage of the system, and it's sad to me that we're just sitting on it and we're acting like it's not happening. If
I think
somebody
I-
like
I'm-
me can
Yeah.
think about it, then a lot of other people who are smarter than me have already thought about it.
Right. I may be wrong about this, but I think I heard about like Russian oligarchs. They would have their children born in the States, so they can get that dual citizenship, and they were to use that to their benefit to launder money in the States. I don't know if they're using the real estate market to do that, but
I mean, if you want to destabilize a nation, the best way to do it is destroy their economy, right?
I think our following is end up going to be acronymed government agencies here in a minute.
Don't worry, they're following all of us anyway.
However,
three of us are working on here.
even with 10, I can answer all your questions. So ask away.
For our
no,
podcast viewers, Billy just waved an 8-ball in front of everybody's face.
so no, I do want to ask away. So let's get back to Second Life, Andy, and let's go back.
So I like Second Life to me was man, what was it? Our middle school years, or following that may or
around
Tim, that may have been when you were in
university,
graduate school. So Second Life was to me the first attempt to create this alternative universe for I guess our corporal bodies. Like it gave us this way to like get out of reality and enter something where you got to create everything and every bit of what you are. And like every single time I think about this, and I'm sure Billy and Janie will recall this with me, I think of the Brad Paisley song Online, where he's like, you know, he's 5'5", he works at like a restaurant or something, and then he's talking about, but online, you know, I live in Hollywood, I'm 6'5", I drive a Maserati. Like it's a fantastic song, and that kind of stuff comes to my mind because when you're online persona, whether it's social media or gaming, you get to exit this corporal reality that you're in. And I think there's various levels of that. And one of those levels that I think is awesome is gaming. And it's gaming with people you know in real life. And I'm going to an obvious segment here, but I think it's a fantastic way in our world where we're spreading apart further and further geographically to stay in touch with your family, especially when your family can game together. So I wanted to transition to the next segment about gaming as a family, because honestly, if it wasn't for World of Warcraft, I think me and my family probably would have separated a bit more than just geographically. Like for several years, we all would get online to this game and once a week just get together and for a few hours a day, just hang out, do things. And it would be things that have no meaning whatsoever. Once you turn off the game, it did nothing for you in real life. So I kind of want to jump it off there. Like, let's get into gaming as a family. Let's get into gaming with your friends, like how important it is to you and whether or not you think it's separate from who you are or whether you think it is part of who you are. Anybody can jump off. Like, so, I think well, Matt's perspective here would be huge. He moved to Singapore. Like Matt and I used to go to high school together. We used to argue about World of Warcraft because marksman hunters are the best hunters.
We've seen Matt game. He games kind of like he swings a golf club. And, you know, if you've been keeping up with the episodes, that's pretty rough. Go, Matt. Give it a shot. Because
no, I do think that, you know, gaming, you know, especially in the virtual world with like the metaverse on Facebook Quest and everything like that can really help out, you know, because I have the Facebook Quest 2 VR headset, and it's amazing how much your real life actions of your hands and stuff like that translate into the virtual world. It feels like you're actually talking to the person that you're like they're kind of like right there in a way. So I think like in the future, if it does catch on, I think it will have a place. I think, especially if like things like the pandemic happen again, I think that it will be helpful for families to be able to connect with each other. You know, I've been wanting to play with you guys to see it, just to see how it will play out. But yeah, I think it has its place.
I definitely agree. Like I even this isn't gaming, but we're on Zoom. We're in different countries. We're in different parts of the United States, and we're having a seamless conversation. We can see each other. We can tell each other's facial cues. We can watch those little ticks, and we could discuss the legal aspects of that later. But the fact that courthouses operate in this kind of manner right now, without fail, is interesting to me.
Right.
But like turning to gaming, there's almost a bit of a bond that's created, right? Like, don't you think there's something about your relationship? There's something about progression. So, Matt, we created, I'm sorry, we didn't, you created a guild in World of Warcraft a long time ago that you dumped on me.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
you
then
inherited. It was a great guild.
Yes.
Well, it was a great guild. After Matt left, we became like the number 2 or number 3 guild on the server. But,
Yeah.
you know, that's beyond the point.
I think him leaving
But
is
I
irrelevant.
planted the little seeds.
Awesome name too.
That's fantastic.
But I think it develops. I think it develops a lot to who you are. Like and Janie, Billy, I know you guys both have gaming in your family, so you guys have kids of different ages. Tin, you do as well. My kid does not play games yet. I'm hoping he will. He'll here soon. I got him a Nintendo Switch. That's mainly for me. So like, tell me, what's your perspectives on it? Like, how do you use gaming in your family dynamic? Do you use gaming to promote any relationships within the family?
With their kids, or
No,
Billy,
within your own family. So Jane, if you want to start,
Okay.
or Tin, if you want to start.
No. I was going to say Billy because he's got a Switch right in his background right there.
That's true.
Yeah.
Billy, you have a Switch. Also, you have a cat that went behind your couch. I want to make sure you know it's back there.
You don't even have a cat.
Ghost.
I'll be right back.
Was that just a big rat?
It may have been a big rat.
I live in the Hamptons, so
I'm almost done. Okay, thank you. Look, I got a beer runner. All right.
Yeah. Oh man.
Thanks, Aiden.
So Billy, Annie won't game with us on Sundays because he's gaming with y'all.
Sunday mornings, yeah.
Sunday mornings. So how's it like for you guys to like come together after a week of like high performance work, professionalism, and then probably Saturdays with your own personal family, and then Sunday the original nuclear family comes back together in game?
To destroy some 13-year-olds. Absolutely destroy some 13-year-olds.
They got some mouths, okay? They have to be taught a lesson.
Teaching them valuable lessons. Life lessons.
Because y'all play with your parents too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's that dynamic like?
I am probably the wrong one to talk to about gaming.
I don't think so. I think you have a different perspective, and I think it's interesting. And I think your perspective needs to be heard.
He must play support.
Actually, I feel like I play support a lot, but that's fine. That's fine.
To me, gaming is like when Andy brought up the Hoover administration. What was that, 29 to 33? So we're looking at what, the Great Depression? That's what it feels like to me. I don't think I don't mind doing things like this. I know each and every one of you individually. I've personally seen you face to face in a live environment. When it comes to gaming, I feel it's fake, and I feel it's, and this is just my opinion. I don't care to spend my time. Let me try to make this in a better perspective. When we played WoW, World of Warcraft, for those who y'all probably know what the hell that is. So anyways, so we play World of Warcraft, it became a stressful environment. It really has, because you have to know this character, whoever you're playing, like the back of your hand. And there was a plethora of buttons you had to push. And when you're done, and when you started playing, the sun was coming up, you stopped playing, the sun was coming down, and you felt like you didn't do nothing all day except get a rash on both your butt cheeks. And to me, it's such a waste of time. It always felt that way.
Supposed to get up for the restroom between games, but
Oh, see, I didn't know that. I always just carried a bottle with me. And yeah, I didn't know y'all took breaks. I mean, that's here nor there. That's a whole different story. Another podcast. Right. But it to me, it is a distraction of real life. To me, you should be outside doing something. You're with your family, sure, but you're not with your whole family, and your whole family is not going to enjoy it as much as you. There's other things you can do, and I think it's a waste of time.
So why do you do it every Sunday then?
Because it became a family tradition, and it's don't get me wrong, it is fun playing with family. Now, if 10 and Matt wanted to play, hey, let's play. Y'all are like family to me, you know what I mean? So to me, it's a good time. But when Tom, Dick, and Harry get on, and we're all playing, and they're like, "Hey, man, you need to learn how to shoot." I'm just like, "Fuck you, brother." I mean, I don't know who
I
you are.
understand you. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm
Right.
like, especially it's worse when you have a little child going, "Hey, man, you know how to shoot, bro?" Bruh. Like, first off, you ain't calling me bro. You all right?
Respect your elders.
You know what I'm saying? I don't care where your daddy tougher than me. Bring him over here.
I want the viewers to know that Billy plays Neon in Valorant. I just want everybody to know Billy plays Neon in Valorant.
He does a good job too. Fantastic.
Yeah, but that bitch is fast, dude.
But,
fast.
yeah. Billy, do you think gaming has its place when it comes to like socializing? Like, for example, for me, I live across the world, you know, like it's a bit more difficult for me to meet in real life with you guys.
Well, yeah, in that aspect, yeah, because I know you.
Right.
You know, we've known each other since, whatever, 30, 40 years ago. We've known each other. You know, I have a history with you. So if we were to play together.
Your mics came away from your mouth. You want to pull it closer?
Actually, my computer is telling me my network bandwidth is slow.
Okay.
Living in the Hamptons, we don't get very good. They want you outside on the beach. Okay. But in that aspect, that's like what we do as a family. I know my family, and when we play, we know each other. I mean, it's not something, I'm not. Let's say back in the day, we didn't have. I mean, these things are huge. This is a damn cell phone. You know what I mean? We didn't have stuff like that in our pockets. We had to go out and talk to people, and I'm used to that. But now you just, what's it called? Swipe left. You know what I mean? And you meet somebody. You know what I mean? I still don't know what that means, but people swipe left and they date each other.
Very obvious.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, swipe right.
But it's the thing when you hear people on television. Yeah, did you swipe left on her? I'm like, what the hell does that mean? I guess it's funny. But it's so easy now to not know somebody. However, you are their friend, and virtually you're good friends. But in real life, when you meet each other, it's going to be, who's this person I was playing with?
Yeah, that's Matt and I. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He don't have chickens in his refrigerator. You know what I'm saying?
Totally Matt and I.
Yeah,
You
no one's
did
not
it to the T.
No one's not for me.
Most of Andy's best men, or all of them, were met through gaming. Am I right?
No,
So you did end up.
10 was my best man. We met at.
I'm sorry, your groomsmen. I meant your groomsmen.
Yeah, most of my groomsmen, most of my groomsmen, half of my groomsmen were met online.
Yeah, see, Andy and I, we actually hated
each
each other in real life when we first.
We hated each other.
So.
Y'all grew closer
because he thought he was better than me, and I needed to prove him wrong.
But here's the thing, though, right? Is that I wonder if Janie, if your perspective on family gaming is a lot different from Billy, because quite frankly, I'm surprised by Billy's response right now. And that's not what I expected.
I'm not surprised. I want to throw in before we move over. Billy used to be a hardcore Warcraft 3 player back when when he was a teenager and I haven't hit the double-digit midget area yet. Like Billy used to like be one of the coolest orcs that I watched play.
And Mario Brothers.
And Mario Brothers.
Shoot, man, he was like,
and NFL Blitz. We used to
Oh,
play
NFL
NFL
Blitz?
Blitz all the time.
the best, the best.
He's like, I don't know what you're talking
And
about.
the best duck hunter ever.
Yeah,
Always
Duck
me.
Hunter. Yes, that's right. I think gaming is amazing. Okay, so I have lots and lots of things to say about it. I'm trying to keep it short. My husband was in the military. Got out a few years ago. When he was deployed, when you're, separated that far, and he's at war, and we get to speak to each other. It's nice to be able to talk to them on the phone, but sometimes there's just nothing to talk about, right? So it'll be like, but you just want to spend time together. So it'll be just silent for a long time, and for military couples that are separate like that, sometimes it gets kind of frustrating because you want to be with them, but you can't physically be with them, right? So you get these long pauses and it's like, I guess we have nothing else to talk about, and then you hang up. Well, Sean and I started playing World of Warcraft together. Sure, he would be a little laggy, but and I have to make sure he hates it when I tell people this, but the most romantic place he's ever taken me is in Hellsfire Peninsula in World of Warcraft, and it took me way up into the sky.
That's not a pretty place for the listeners.
No, it is. You haven't gone far enough. He took me far enough. Those developers, man, they got some hidden Easter eggs up there. It's beautiful, right? The most romantic place he ever took me. He hates me to say that story. So, but it was while he was he was deployed overseas. And we would play games together and kill things, and we would, raid and do things together, PvP, player versus player. So we shoot other people, virtually. We kill people for fun together, like Bonnie and Clyde, but not for real. And it was fun. It was something we did together. So where we didn't have to talk about something or just be silent, but we got to spend time together, right? So in the same sense, every Sunday, Andy is very far from us. And I enjoy our Sundays because we spend time together. We may not have much to talk about, how are your kids? How's work?
You can tell we barely talk.
Yeah, but when we do get to see him in person, that once a year we get to see him in person, it's like we've been seeing him this whole time. It's not a tearful, oh, it's been so long, I miss you, it's not like that, because we spend every Sunday together. It's like he's been with us every week. So it keeps that bond there. It keeps that together. And in the same sense with my children, they've learned things like World of Warcraft. You have an economy to deal with. You have a banking account to deal with. You have to worry about, when should I put this on the market? When should I buy? When should I sell? Buying high is bad, that kind of a thing. My oldest, her first sentence was Yeti falls down.
Yep. I remember this.
and they know they learned how to type help using World of Warcraft when they would play when they were little, because they tried to get other people to help them. So it's educational that way. And still today we play Valorant together, just the four of us sometimes, and they kick our butts.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm trying. They're just fast. I'm getting my reaction slowed down in the past few years.
Yeah, that's just because we're older. But well, that's what we say anyway. But yeah, I think gaming is a great thing for families. I do. And in the sense that Billy's talking about it taking away from the real world. Yes, I agree with that as well. That's how all things should come in moderation, and the purpose of gaming together should be so that you can stay close to people and maybe even an outlet. I actually raid with a group of people I've never met before in my life on Sunday nights and Wednesday nights, and we go out there. There's 20 of us, and we just go out there and kill things. And I like it because it separates me from real world problems for a couple hours, so I can go to bed at night. But it's all in moderation. This whole sun up to sundown thing, absolutely not necessary, but yeah.
So I do want to close the circle because Annie, you're part of the circle between Janie and Billy, but we'll save the best for last with Matt. So I have a very short thing to say about gaming with friends, at least, is that I'm a runner. Andy and Stephanie got me into running, and I actually have a really, really low resting heart rate. And when I want to increase my blood pressure and my heart rate without having to move, we invite Matt to a game, League of Legends.
Which
Andy,
hasn't joined yet.
What's gaming like for you, for your family with Janie and Billy and your parents? What's your take on that?
I honestly, it's a reprieve for my week. So in DC, as many people as here, you never feel so isolated socially. There, you always have a ton of people around you, and 90% of them couldn't care less that you're alive. So you often are just walking around, you're doing your job, you get out of there. Most people don't care. I recently moved to a new neighborhood, and I love it here. The neighbors stop, they talk to you, they're awesome, they're amazing. It's fantastic living here. But even then, there's not a real connection. So your connection ends up being friends and family. And I've yet to make very close friends in this area. I've got one, maybe two close friends in this area. But even then, I talk to them. The ones that I don't work with, I talk to them. The one I don't work with, I talk to them like once every 3 months. I might be working with them here soon, but that's kind of where things are. Like in the DC area, once you get friends, it's more like, there's like this professional underlying theme with it, and you keep your distance and you keep a half wall up, because you never know if that person needs to use you or wants to be your friend, and you don't know what that definition might look like. So my Sunday mornings are my reprieve from a world that I don't feel a part of half the time. I was raised in the same I don't want to say in the same area as Billy and Janie. Billy and Janie lived there for a good portion of their childhood, but I lived there my entire childhood. And I that's all I ever knew. So when I left, my entire world was gone. Like the entire world that I knew was gone. So the only way I got back to that world, the only way I knew that social connection were on these Sundays. I got to talk to my family. I got to remember this world that I came from. I got to forget all the things around me, like the relationships I don't have here. I can just be me on Sunday mornings. So I asked that question earlier, whether gaming to you was something that you thought was part of who you were or something separate, because I wasn't saying that you get to be an alternative person while gaming. I was saying that you can be yourself while gaming. And I think that's what gaming does for me. I get to go back to the person that I was. I get to be the Andy that I like. I get to be the Andy that I want to be. I get to be the Andy that you guys listen to on these podcasts, if you guys are listening to it. I get to be happy for that moment before I have to leave my house, leave my family on my Sundays, leave my family here in this house, my son and my wife, to go out to this world where I have to be on alert constantly. That amount of stress is just, I don't like it. I don't like having this gap between me and somebody that I want to be my friend. I don't like having to have those second guesses. I like just having those times where I just get to be with family and say, you know what, fuck everything else. I'm with
Let
family.
loose.
I get to be me.
That's sorry, go ahead, finish up.
No. I was going to transition, so please go ahead.
No. So I think that's probably one of the deepest things that you've said on this podcast, and also as us as friends. And I can see the care in Janie's face, but Billy doesn't give a shit. Him and his Arby's napkin. He's drying his dry eyes.
That wasn't Arby's.
My shit was
how's
on
it for
mute.
you? for you as somebody who lives halfway across the world from the rest of us, because the four of us, we live in the same time zone. We're all Eastern time, and you're in Singapore time, whatever that is, right? Yeah. How's it for you with gaming, other than completely ignoring helping me and Andy in League of Legends? How's it to you to game with friends and family?
Oh, it brings me back to like Andy was saying that it brings me back to like, oh, this is how the good times were back in the day. You know what I mean? Like, because
Halo.
Huh?
Halo.
Halo, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Halo. Oh, like I tried I tried playing Halo by myself recently because they released a new game, and it just wasn't the same. You know, like I was like, I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like I was like, oh yeah, I used to play with my friends all the time playing it. It's just I think that was the key factor of my enjoyment of it. But I feel like in Singapore, being across the world, I feel like it's, you know, kind of out of sight, out of mind in a bad way, where like you're so focused on my little tiny world over here, and especially with the time difference, you know, like when you guys are chatting, most of the time it's like in the middle of the night. So then like in the morning, I always like, okay, like, oh, what happened now? Like, oh, I kind of missed out on that conversation. I'll message them later. I always forget.
Conversations. Good God.
Yeah, a lot of conversations actually. Might be just my personal thing. But no, but like I always look forward to our Sundays. You know, even just doing this podcast, it's been really fun for me. I think it's a great way to connect with you guys, and then afterwards we'll game a little bit. So I think it's like an important part of, you know, my life now. But yeah, so I always feels kind of sucky sometimes when we miss out. But yeah. But I do think like when it comes to like the metaverse, when it comes to a bigger thing, I think it can help out even more, you know, like, because I feel like sometimes when we play League of Legends, we get so lost into actually just playing the game and not really doing the socializing aspect of it. So I feel like, oh man, I wish we could be able to talk about, you know, something that's been happening in my life or whatever. So sometimes I wish we could just like have a more of a social atmosphere when it comes to that. So, but no, I'm very grateful for having these kind of shared interests, especially when it comes to gaming, so we can just hang out and socialize.
You know, my last note on this before I give it back to you, Andy. My mom, she left her parents and her sisters and her brothers. She escaped Vietnam to go with my dad to the Philippines, and her family didn't know. They actually didn't meet up again until 13 years later. Her family was in Australia and we were in Savannah, Georgia. The things that gaming and Zoom and podcasts, like what we're doing here today, brings us together, like in a way that nobody ever had an opportunity to do before, right? And we can really get into these conversations and really enjoy each other's time without having to, I guess, care about anything else. It's really neat. But again, you know, Matt, to be distracted with playing League of Legends, you'd have to play the fucking game first, man. But Andy,
I'm too busy reading all the little notes. I feel like Billy sometimes like, what do these buttons do? Like,
report it. Report that.
It's like, what?
Peter.
I'm supposed to
So I'm actually just going to wrap it up, guys. Like that was a fun conversation. Like I'm glad we were able to get into real estate. I'm glad we were able to get into gaming. I hope we didn't get too serious with the gaming. I hope the viewers enjoyed that. So Janie and Billy, thank you both for joining us.
Oh, wait. We cannot wrap it up after all that sad shit that just happened. I mean, come on, guys. Seriously, I ain't come back to this damn podcast. I mean, yo, this is depressing. We're gonna wrap it up now. We thank everybody for coming out here.
We try to go on time limits here, man.
That's the driest napkin I've ever seen in my life, Billy.
If you sponsor us.
That's also the slowest I've ever seen anybody drink a beer.
Right.
This is my third one.
This is my fourth glass.
I see your bottle. You barely hit it.
I was going to say, I don't think I've seen you picked it back up.
It was full.
I'm still sipping on my beer. Don't be making fun of it either.
That's sparkling
That's
water.
not a beer.
That is. It's my beer.
That's a sparkling water, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the alcohol content on there? Out of curiosity.
5%.
Oh, it's a beer.
Beer.
It's more than mine, actually.
It's more
only
than that
100
Yingling
calories.
Billy's been nursing.
100 calories, runners. 100 calories.
Oh, well, you know.
Billy's about to find out that
There's
he's
so much
got,
alcohol in here. It's not even on the label.
yeah, it's 3.5%.
Look, you know, I would love to have you guys back at any time. Anytime.
Oh, we
Uh,
appreciate.
That
I
was
appreciate being here.
fantastic.
Yes, it was fun.
I'm ready. I'm ready for your questions this time.
Yo, well, that's not
this
crystal
time.
ball.
No, well, you're right.
Yes. No, maybe.
All right, wrap it up.
Now,
Andy.
now we can wrap it up. Thank you.
All right. All right. Thanks, guys. We're changing our schedule a little bit. We're gonna do this like every 2 weeks. I think we're gonna try to be more regular. Thanks for this gap that you gave us. A lot of things happened that in the background that we needed to take care of, but I think we're back on schedule. I appreciate it, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Again, Janie, Billy, thanks for joining us. If we can get you on another podcast, you guys let us know your interest, and we'll fit you in. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Cool.
Thanks.
See
Good
ya.
to see you guys.